Good evening, and welcome to our Finding Hope for Life Family Support Meeting. I'm Steve Willis, co-founder of Hope Sheds Light. Thanks so much for being with us. For those of you who are new, Hope Sheds Light is a family-focused nonprofit agency. Our mission is to raise awareness and to educate individuals and families in the community about the impact of addiction by having the courage to share our personal experiences, by offering our strength and our wisdom, and by providing hope and resources that lead to the long-term recovery of the whole family. We want to remove the fear and stigma surrounding this disease through a loving and safe and hopeful environment that allows families to heal and brings wellness to the community. And this family support meeting is designed to do just that. As we move into this winter season, we're bringing our meetings, along with our educational sessions, back to a virtual format so that we can provide you with education and support in as safe a manner as possible. So let me explain what that looks like. We'll start with our traditional introduction and then announce our monthly topic. After the introduction, we'll play a 15 to 20 minute educational video and play it live on Facebook throughout the month, including on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. just before our support group. We'll engage our many talented colleagues to join us in bringing this support to you. And we'll continue offering our Finding Hope Family Support Group every Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. So please join us as we discuss these monthly topics and get to connect with each other so that we can all get well. This information, of course, can be found on our website at hopeshedslight.org and on our Facebook page and also on our monthly calendar. The topic for the month of December is joy. And Dory Rachel will speak on joy on December 1st and December 8th, and our wonderful Pam Capassi will share her reflections on joy on December 15 and December 22nd. We will have a meeting. We'll get to be together on Zoom on December 29th as well, and I expect that will be a joyful affair. So thank you all for being with us, and God bless.
Hi, my name is Pam. I'm the CEO at Hope Sheds Light, and I'm excited to be here this evening to greet those of you joining us for our Finding Hope Family Support Meeting. Tonight's topic, and the topic for this month, is joy. We picked joy for obvious reasons. It's the holiday season, and our hope is that we can find ways to infuse joy into this season and provide you with some strategies to make sure that joy stays at the center of your holiday season. I thought I would start by talking about, I'm going to be glancing this way because I have my notes over here. I thought I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences for me between happiness and joy. To differentiate between the two, because sometimes we mix those two words up and feelings and emotions up. At least I do. And, so happiness oftentimes is connected to a situation or a circumstance that creates a sudden or spontaneous feeling of joy and happiness and fun. If I've accomplished something, or if somebody in my family has some great news, if I hear, like when I heard about the fact that I was going to be a grandma, that created a whole lot of happiness for me, and having her in my life is a whole bunch of joy. So for me, differentiating between the idea that I would have this long-term sustained feeling of happiness all the time was setting me up a little bit for depression, actually, because I couldn't sustain that. Every minute of my day wasn't always filled with happiness. Sometimes there's unhappy news that I receive, or a bad day, or something happens that creates anger or frustration, and I'm like, how do I sustain happiness with this current situation? And I thought, especially given the fact that 2020 has been quite challenging for so many of us, finding joy and happiness through this pandemic and through the impact that it's had on our health and financial security, makes the words like happiness and joy quite a struggle. So the difference for me, honestly, is that joy is about creating an inner sense of peace, a place of tranquility that I can retreat to even in hard times, that I have a sense of confidence or security that, things will work out, that this too shall pass, that I'm confident and comfortable in my surroundings to weather storms, so that even if I'm not in a continuous state of happy, that I can be in a continuous state of joy. As it might be implied in what I just said, joy is something that I have to work at. Joy is something that I can be purposeful, whereas, which can create a happy life for me overall. But this overwhelming emotion of happiness oftentimes is something that comes from outside of my control, from situations or circumstances that are generated in partnership or in part by something else, where joy is something I get to choose in terms of cultivating my, internal world. So what I'm suggesting is that for each of you who we're all now in the holidays season, however you celebrate it, whatever you recognize, my hope is that we can work together on some ideas on how to generate joy through this season and beyond. And in particular for people who are in recovery, or for families who are living with and or learning how to cope with the impact that addiction has on your life. Even in that storm, we can and should be looking to cultivate some joy as a way to weather that storm. So what I would suggest is that you look for, number one, and I say this a lot, try to find the meaning in what you're experiencing. And I will just go to COVID. As much of a challenge as COVID has been, I have found a lot of purpose and renewed a sense of purpose through this situation. And it's challenging, the second wave in particular. It's like enough is enough. I did all of my purpose finding in March and April and May, and I don't want to have to go back into this box. But one of the sources of joy for me through this can be, or has been, that I'm building a sense of fortitude, strength, and determination to be, persistent and continue with pushing through and kind of weathering the storm. I'm somebody who had COVID, making it through that diagnosis, managing to not freak out because I panic often when it comes to that sort of stuff, really showed me that it increased my sense of faith, my determination and my will. It reaffirmed for me that, my health is something I value and I need to take it more seriously. So there were many things that I learned from 2020 and COVID and my service work and now my own personal health that has left me with a stronger sense of confidence in me. And that brings me joy. That brings me an internal sense of peace that I have a strong faith and I can rely on that faith to provide me with support. And B, that I myself was able to take care of myself and manage that illness and come out on the other side a stronger person. So what that does for me overall is create calm inside, and that adds to my overall sense of joy. So I ask that you also think about some of the hardest days that you've spent through COVID and see where you found meaning in that and purpose that you can carry now into the rest of your life. In looking to cultivate joy internally, I like to consider looking at the small picture. So if I take in everything all at once, it can be overwhelming. Even if my happiness and joy is connected to a particular accomplishment, if that's a 5-year goal per se, I need to break that down, and I need to take small, manageable steps in order to reach the goal. So I look at small, manageable steps that are obtainable accomplishments that build my sense of happiness, and then in turn also helps cultivate an internal sense of joy. If I'm having, I'll even break it down differently. If I'm having a challenging day, I can stay focused on the challenge of the day, or I can break down the day into minute by minute by minute if I need to, even, or hour by hour, to just, even if it's just kind of grinding out the day. And I'd say, all right, it's 12. I managed to get from 11 to 12. I stopped. I took some extra breaths. I went and got a cup of coffee. I literally have to break things down into tiny little increments to get through what may seem like a challenge. And I guess the key here and the theme is that as we manage to accomplish the smaller goals, we begin to build a sense of internal fortitude and confidence and resiliency. And those characteristics ultimately help build joy in your life, because you can rely on them, and you begin to build a sense of confidence in yourself that no matter what's happening outside, you have what it takes to make it through. That can create a sense of joy. There's a thing called, straightening out your spiral. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term before, but if once kind of one thing starts to come unglued, then all of a sudden you start throwing everything in, and so you go from I'm trying to think, I had a flat tire this morning, to everything in my life is falling apart. So you take one unfortunate situation, and then all of a sudden you're thrown in the kitchen sink, right? To everything that in your life is falling apart. So that's that spiral. So when you see yourself in that spiral, the idea is to kind of straighten your spiral out. Try to say, okay, one thing went wrong. That doesn't mean my entire life is going wrong. Even if you're in a series of particularly challenging events, it doesn't mean that the entire world is, out for you. And so you have to stop the spiral. You have to stop the spiraling thinking. And one of the ways to do that is to remind yourself of something you're grateful for. One of the ways to do that right in the middle of the moment is to say, okay, all of this might seem like a hot mess, but I have this or I have that. And remind yourself of the things that you do have in your life that you are grateful for, that you wouldn't trade up for anything. And that can straighten out your spiral, so to speak. Another strategy that I would suggest in creating joy is to find and make room for passion in your life. I didn't do this for a long time. If not every day, if you can't do it every day, in a small way, I know this will sound silly, but every once in a while I go and I kind of come off coffee and I detox my system and get all the caffeine out and be healthy. But I do have to say that I always migrate back to coffee and finding, I love coffee. So I like my morning coffee. I like to wake up a little earlier, not to get up and hit the ground running, but to get up and make a cup of coffee and get back into bed and just spend 10, 15 minutes getting ready to embrace the day. I can also add into that a 10 or 15 minute guided meditation. these are things that I look forward to. These are things that create the base of joy and peace in my life before I start my day. Some people like to draw. Some people like to sing in the shower. What I guess I'm saying, and then that can be extrapolated. So now I like to also include taking a cooking class, for example, allowing myself to, before COVID, drive into New York and take a Saturday class with a chef and learn how to make a new dish. I'm very passionate about that. So I think another way to cultivate long-term joy is to decide what you're passionate about and make it happen for yourself. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can be a 10-minute cup of coffee in the morning. It can be a day excursion to learn how to make a new dish. It can be a workshop, a hike. Whatever is passion, whatever drives you, you have to start making time for that in your life, no matter how busy you are. And I think when I was raising my kids and struggling as a single mother, struggling for time, energy, money, even a hot bubble bath, with nice music was enough to sort of, introduce calm and joy and peace and remind me that that's available to me if I want to access it. So for this holiday season, find out what makes you passionate about the season and make sure that you're introducing that into your life. I just added smelly, the candles that smell like Christmas trees and a chain of lights around the window in my bedroom, just so that I can, have the sense of Christmas follow me into my little cave of my room and be a part of my life, because that is something I'm passionate about and it brings me happiness and joy. So find your passion, especially whatever makes you passionate through this season, and be purposeful about it. You really have to, that's again the difference between happiness and joy. With joy, you need to be purposeful. You need to plan it almost. I know that's not spontaneous, and so it doesn't sound as exciting, but I'm suggesting that if you're feeling like there's a lack of joy, then so what? If you have to plan it, and then it becomes something more joyful for you over time. It'll feel special and spontaneous, but even if initially it's something that's a little forced or planned, what's the harm? If it's not in your life now, go ahead and take those steps. So another suggestion is to step outside your comfort zone. Doesn't have to be far outside your comfort zone, but plan something to do for yourself that you're not comfortable with, that challenges you, because it awakens your senses. It makes you more acutely aware of your entire experience, and it's not something that you do without thinking. So and it adds passion and it adds excitement, and it can build that internal resource that I'm referring to and help you generate a sense of joy. So I would say find something that you've thought about doing, but you're like, I don't know if I'm able to do that, and introduce it into your life this season. Take a hike, jog. I mean, you don't need money or a whole lot of time. So if that seems to be a barrier for you, try to just kind of let whatever comes up to you in your mind that's like an obstacle for you introducing this, and just say, okay, I hear you, I get you, but I'm going to push you aside and I'm still going to take this step. I wish I could share with you what I want to do this season outside my comfort zone, but I don't know yet. So maybe I'll see you hopefully in some of our Tuesday night meetings, and you guys can challenge me on that to say, what did I do to go outside my comfort zone this holiday season? Another strategy is to just be present. I try to stay in the moment. That's a great strategy for those of us in recovery in particular. But oftentimes if we project in our thinking or we reflect in our thinking, it creates more stress for us than it does peace. But if we practice and help ourselves just stay in the moment. It usually, every moment isn't necessarily full of stress and anxiety, not all the time. So if you can just take it 1 minute at a time and take a breath and get through your day that way, you'll be decreasing anyway your concerns about the future or your regrets about the past, because you can't do anything about those anyway. So stay in the moment. That will really help you create a sense of joy. This is a challenging one for some of us, but confronting your past, if you're constantly ruminating over a mistake you made or something that happened in your past, as best as you can, release that. Confront it, either if it's something that you can actually reach out to an individual or right that wrong, fine. Lots of times, though, we can't. Lots of times they're just things that happened that we're not proud of or that created unease for us, and we can't change it, but we can write it out. We can journal it out. We can have the argument on paper. We can forgive ourselves on paper. We can talk to a counselor or a good friend about it. We have to be brutally honest about what is ours in it so that we can let it go. So if there's really something bugging you, find a way to consciously confront it and then let it go, because that actually can really have a negative impact on your ability to feel joy, to feel happiness, and to build, that internal reservoir of joy that I'm referring to. Whenever possible, be authentic, be yourself. Don't be afraid to go on your gut and to express yourself honestly. We can't people please our whole lives. We're never going to make everybody happy. So you should start with trying to make yourself happy and be authentic and go from there. That's really hard for some of us, especially if we're insecure. But I know that for me, when I'm my authentic self, first of all, I'm almost always surprised at how well received it is. People know when you're being genuine and when you're not being genuine. And I have fewer regrets, that previous statement about confronting your past. I have a lot fewer regrets when I am authentic in my interactions with people and in my interactions with myself. So be the authentic you, and let everything else, ride, basically. Try to volunteer. I derive a lot of joy from volunteering in my community. It helps me, get outside of myself. It reminds me that, the world doesn't revolve around Pam. It's as much, I receive as much as I give when I volunteer. So if you have an opportunity to spend a little bit of time on over your weekends or an evening volunteering, I really recommend that you try it. It's no matter what your situation is, you can always give your time, and so many places need help this time of year in particular. So go ahead and try to volunteer, because I think it'll be very rewarding for you and really help you generate a sense of joy from the inside out. And finally, I would say, when all else fails, or even if all else doesn't fail, get out into nature. Get out into nature, breathe the fresh air, take a walk on the beach, or in the woods, or around the block. Just leave your phone at home, turn your computers off, and get outside. Especially now that we've all been locked in so much, and that winter is coming and the weather is going to be crazy. Whenever you have a chance to get outside and connect with nature, I recommend that you do it. Again, it kind of reminds us that the world is bigger than you and I, and it's like it right sets our internal compass a little bit, and it really helps with generating a sense of joy. I did say finally, but there are 2 other suggestions here that I would like to share. I'm going to switch the order, though, because I want to end with 11, not 12. So seek positive people. Seek out, if you swim in dirty pool, or you're going to get dirt on you, right? So if you're around positive people, you tend to be more positive. So if you're in a slump, get on a Zoom with a bunch of your friends or people who can make you laugh and lift your spirits. And I guess that message really is consistent with some of the other messages. Just get outside yourself. Don't let yourself be your barrier to happiness and joy. If you're not able to generate it independently, then surround yourself with nature or people or other things that can help ignite the process for you. And the thing I want to end with the most reminds me of my mom, because she was always great at this. Find opportunities for laughter. My mom was always one that could just find a way to bring joy or humor into any situation. And she would say, you're going to go through this. So you can go through it crying or you can go through it laughing. But either way, you're going through it. So whatever we're coping with right now, I would say to you, you're going to get through it and you're going to have to move through it. So try to do it with a smile on your face. Bring joy into your life. Bring laughter into your life. And, it doesn't change what you're dealing with, but it certainly gives you a different perspective if you can do it with a smile on your face. I really hope this has been helpful. I truly hope that you have a joy-filled holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you during our Finding Hope meetings.